This is part of Smokey's education as a working pony. Long reining is absolutely essential because this is how we're going to manage him when he's working. So he has to learn to take voice commands rather than take seat or leg commands from a rider. He has to stop, start, trot, turn left, turn right, move over, simply by voice command and the reins that we have there. So he's working quite nicely here, he's walking out nicely, looks fairly relaxed. Until the bird flies out of the hedge. But there he goes, we're watching his body language, looking to see that his head's at a nice angle, that his ears are relaxed, that his tail's up, and that he's working into his harness. And here we're asking it to turn right and left, using what we have to hand, which is the rushes in the field. Actually, going straight is much harder than turning. The second stage that we're using here today is the swingle tree. Now this is homemade, but it's perfectly adequate for our purposes. It's going to get Smokey used to the ropes around his legs, but it also allows Steve to put some weight on the swingle tree and get Smokey used to pulling against a heavier weight than just a single piece of wood. It's also getting him used to the idea of something moving behind him on the ground. So it's a whole part of his education.
Smokey, ready? Walk on. Smokey, ready? Walk on.
And using that rope, Steve can keep the swingle tree up so that it doesn't get caught. The ropes don't get caught under Smokey's legs. There you can see Steve starting to put a bit of weight onto the swingle tree. And Smokey's pushing into his collar to act against that.
Smokey, ready? Walk on.
The next stage that we move on to is getting him to pull a log. It's a bit more weight,
Boy.
but it's also quite rattly. You can see something moving behind him. And on this surface you can see the pony isn't entirely comfortable. He's looking behind. We don't work him in blinkers. So he's looking behind to see what's there, and he's listening to the noise. But on the whole, he's quite comfortable. And again, Steve's got the rope onto the log so that he can put a bit more weight on than the log itself. And he's putting a fair bit of weight on that. Now this is quite difficult for Smokey, and this will be part of the next stage of his education, is getting him to make more tight turns where he can see the implement that's been pulled behind him. But he's quite calm here. You can see him, he's flicking an ear back to listen for his commands.
You ready? Walk on. Walk on. Walk on.
Here we are again with the rope on the log, and Steve, as you can see there, is leaning quite heavily back to ask Smokey to work a bit harder. And the additional weight makes the steering a bit more difficult, but as Smokey gets used to the weight, then we're starting to take a better line. And now we're starting to introduce the harrow. It's a chain harrow. It's about 4 foot wide. It's quite heavy and it's quite rattly. So we want to get him used to the noise. And Steve's moving it around and giving it a really good rattle so that Smokey can hear that. Smokey, as you can see, is none too concerned about it. And again, as Steve moves up behind him there, you can see Smokey's listening, but he certainly doesn't look too concerned. And here we're doing a bit of simulation. We've got some chains so that Smokey can get used to the noise of them.
Yep.
Working with 22 foot reins is a very strange sensation. Your horse does seem an awful long way away from you. And he's done a good job today. So the next time we take him out, we'll actually hitch him up to the harrow. But he's worked very well. So has Steve.